The deadly shooting at an ICE facility in Dallas is being investigated by the FBI as a targeted attack. One person was killed and two are in critical condition after that shooting. All three of the victims were detainees of the facility and not ICE agents. CBS News spoke to the head of ICE yesterday about the attack. Listen.
I feel that it was a definite targeted attack on ICE facility. You don't shoot out the windows. You just don't shoot at the random vehicles. You don't pick that location, a specific spot in Dallas, just to make a statement. The detainees were shot. Well, obviously, one lost their life, but I don't believe there was no way he could have known detainees were in that vehicle. He was just indiscriminately shooting, hoping to cause some carnage and mayhem.
And now let's bring in CBS News immigration and politics reporter Camilo Montoya Galvez. Camilo, good to see you today. You were the one to speak with the acting ICE Director Todd Lyons. So what were your takeaways from the conversation you had with him?
Well, Mugo, Director Lyons also told us that this shooting in Dallas could have been even deadlier had the shooter been more successful in targeting ICE officials and others who were in the vicinity of that ICE field office in that area. The director, of course, mentioned that one detainee has tragically died, two remain in critical condition, hospitalized in nearby hospitals. But he said that other people could have been hurt and harmed, Mugo, because he noted that this Dallas field office overseen by ICE sits near a major highway and that people were on their way to work and also to school at the time of the shooting early Wednesday morning. The director also told us that he is now reevaluating and re-examining security protocols for ICE operations and facilities across the country. But he also stressed to me, Mugo, that this shooting will not deter the Trump administration from pursuing that aggressive deportation campaign.
And Camilo, what do we know about the history of the suspect in this case?
Well, Acting Director Lyons did confirm the identity of the shooter. He identified the shooter as 29-year-old Joshua John of Texas, and he did note that the shooter has some type of criminal history, according to our team here at CBS News. He pleaded guilty to a narcotics charge back in 2016. That is really the extent of what we know about his criminal history. The director also told us that this man had a high-powered rifle when he really targeted this ICE field office in Dallas, and that he shot at this field office from a nearby rooftop and then obviously killed himself in the process. You know, the investigation remains ongoing, and the director referred to the FBI as to the shooter's actual motives, but he did believe that this was targeted at ICE specifically. Mugo.
All right. Camilo Montoya Galvez, thank you so much for joining us today.
CBS News Homeland Security correspondent Nicole Skang following this. You've been following this now since it happened, live with us from Washington. So Nicole, this facility we know has seen threats before. So what's the response from Homeland Security?
Yeah, the Department of Homeland Security, Reed, has really publicly framed the shooting as a targeted, ideologically driven attack on law enforcement that was motivated by a hatred for ICE. And the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security has really urged politicians, people nationwide, to tone down their rhetoric about immigration enforcement officials. And both the FBI and DHS have released photos and say that shell casings recovered at the scene included anti-ICE messaging, pointing to that as evidence. Now, Director Lyons, in that great interview with our colleague, went on to say, when you have anti-ICE rhetoric written on the bullets, you know who they're targeting. DHS has also said it's taking immediate steps to increase security at ICE facilities, hardening some of those buildings. They haven't disclosed those details publicly, but it's worth mentioning, as you noted, that the same Dallas office had received earlier threats, including a bomb threat just last month.
Well, and it's also pretty chilling. You think of Luigi Mangione, a message on bullet casings. Tyler Robinson, prosecutors say, messages on bullet casings in this case as well. So what do we know about the history of the suspect in this Dallas case?
Yeah, Joshua John had a criminal record. In 2015, he was arrested in Texas for delivering marijuana. He pled guilty to a felony charge, and records show he's registered as an independent voter in Oklahoma, last voted in November of just last year. Now, so far, his family in interviews have suggested he didn't really have a strong political viewpoint. But just today, the FBI director indicated that the gunman had previously downloaded a document that actually listed DHS facilities in the Dallas Dallas area and had conducted multiple searches online of ballistics, as well as video of Charlie Kirk being shot. Patel also said evidence to this point indicates a really high degree of pre-attack planning, and that one of the handwritten notes investigators recovered from the shooter had read something to the effect of, "Hopefully this will give ICE agents real terror." Investigators and officials I've spoken with have expressed concern that this attack was carried out also on the roof of a building, very similar to the tragedy that we saw play out in Utah just a few weeks ago. Of course, Reed, the worry now is about future copycat attacks.
Nicole Skanga, thank you so much for following that.
FBI says the suspect in yesterday's deadly shooting at a Dallas ICE facility was targeting law enforcement. However, no law enforcement officials were actually hit. 3 detainees at that facility were shot. One of them was killed. The Department of Homeland Security has ordered an immediate increase in security at ICE facilities across the country. Now, the 29-year-old suspect fired multiple shots toward the building from a nearby rooftop. Officials say he used ammunition that had anti-ICE messages written on it. You can see that on your video there. He then turned the gun on himself, and that suspect died at the scene. CBS News correspondent Omar Villafranca is joining us live from Dallas right now. Omar, thank you for your time. What more do we know about the suspect in this case?
Well, we're learning very slowly about the suspect, 29-year-old Joshua John. We understand that investigators have been going through a home in Fairview, Texas, just north of here in Collin County, and in Oklahoma as well. And it's worth noting the FBI Director Kash Patel just put out a social media post about how they are going through his devices and have searched those houses that we just mentioned, looking for information. And this is some of what he posted. He said that the suspect downloaded documents for DHS facilities in the Dallas County area. Also said he conducted multiple searches of ballistics and the Charlie Kirk shot video. Also mentioned that he was looking at apps that track ICE movements. As you know, ICE operations have been going on across the country, not just here in Texas, but in different parts of the country. Yeah. He also mentioned that one of the handwritten notes recovered read, and I'm quoting here, hopefully this will give ICE agents real terror to think, is there a sniper with AP rounds on that roof? If people aren't familiar with AP rounds, that stands for armor-piercing rounds. They're heavier, dense core rounds. This is not something that you can, listen, I live in Texas, so you kind of know the gun laws and everything. You can't go into a regular gun store and buy AP rounds. They're not readily available like that. There's a lot of restrictions in getting them, but they're not something you can just go buy any day. Another thing that Kash Patel said, further accumulated evidence points to a high degree of pre-planning this attack. So again, we're trying to find out a little bit more about, the motive obviously seems clear. If there's anti-ICE on there, we want to wait for investigators also to say an official motive. But the question is why? What led to this shooting to come up here in Dallas right off I-35 and shoot into a van?
Yeah. And Omar, as we are waiting to learn more about the investigation and what authorities are finding out about the suspect, have we learned anything new about those 3 victims?
Not much, very tight-lipped. We do know that they were in that van because they were in custody. They were detained as part of recent ICE operations in the Dallas area. As we mentioned, 3 were hit. 3 were hit and 1 was killed. The Mexican consulate has said that one of the injured that was in that vehicle was a Mexican citizen, but for the other 2, we don't know. They're at a local hospital, but even the local hospital is being very tight-lipped about the patients there.
Okay. Omar Villafranca, thank you so much for joining us.